Commander Zexithera stared at the holographic display showing the third planet from the yellow star. The blue and green world spun slowly, its single moon casting shadows across continents filled with primitive structures. Her 4 eyes narrowed in disgust as she watched the thermal readings spike across the planet's surface. "These creatures are destroying their own world," she muttered to her second-in-command. "Officer Vriltok, look at these atmospheric readings. They're poisoning their own air and water." The Galactic Council had been watching this system for over 200 of their years. The species that called themselves humans had only recently discovered how to split atoms and barely managed to escape their planet's gravity well. By galactic standards, they were infants playing with dangerous toys. "Perhaps we should intervene now, Commander," Vriltok suggested, his tentacles writhing nervously, "before they damage their ecosystem beyond repair." Zexithera dismissed the suggestion with a wave of her armored hand. The Chronosian Empire had conquered 17 star systems without breaking a sweat. Each species had eventually thanked them for bringing order and civilization to their chaotic worlds. These humans would be no different. The humans had been classified as a Class 3 developing species under galactic law. They showed promise with their rapid technological advancement, but their violent tendencies and environmental destruction marked them as requiring immediate guidance. The Council had voted unanimously. Earth would be integrated into the galactic community, whether its inhabitants agreed or not. "Scan their military capabilities again," Zexithera ordered. The tactical officer, a blue-skinned Vorthan named Kilonex, manipulated the sensor controls. "Commander, they possess nuclear weapons, but their delivery systems are primitive. Their largest warships float on water instead of flying through space. They have a few satellites and space stations, but nothing that could threaten a single patrol ship." Zexithera nodded approvingly. Every species they had encountered followed the same pattern. Once they reached nuclear capability, they either destroyed themselves or required intervention. The humans were clearly on the path to self-destruction, burning fossil fuels and cutting down their forests at an alarming rate. "Their population is approaching 8 billion, Kilnex continued. "They speak hundreds of different languages and have nearly 200 separate nations. Most are constantly fighting each other over resources, territory, or ideology." "Typical," Vriltok commented. "Divided, primitive, and destructive. They'll probably welcome our guidance once they see the benefits of galactic civilization." The Chronosian fleet consisted of 200 ships, ranging from small fighters to massive dreadnoughts. Their technology was thousands of years ahead of anything these humans could imagine. Force shields, energy weapons, faster-than-light travel, and matter converters were just basic tools in their arsenal. Zexithera had personally overseen the integration of 6 species. The pattern was always the same: initial resistance, a brief demonstration of superior force, surrender, and eventual gratitude. Within a generation, newly integrated species typically became productive members of galactic society. "Begin standard integration protocols," she commanded. "Target their communication satellites first. We need to control information flow to prevent panic." The bridge crew moved efficiently to carry out her orders. This was routine for them. They had done it so many times that individual officers could probably manage an integration in their sleep. "Commander," the communications officer reported, "we're receiving hundreds of different radio and television signals from the planet. Their primitive internet system is quite extensive, though inefficient." "Good. Monitor their chatter. We'll need to identify their leaders and power structures." Zexithera reviewed the cultural analysis reports on her personal display. Humans were apparently obsessed with something called entertainment, constantly creating fictional stories about alien invasions. Most of these stories depicted aliens as either saviors or destroyers, with very little middle ground. "They seem to expect us," she mused. "Their fiction often involves first contact scenarios." "That should make things easier," Vriltok observed. "They've already considered the possibility of our existence." The preliminary scans showed that humans had organized themselves into various power blocks. Some nations possessed advanced technology and large militaries, while others struggled with basic infrastructure. Their economic systems varied wildly, from completely centralized control to chaotic free markets. "Fascinating," Kilnex noted, reviewing social data. "They actually seem to function despite having no central authority. Each nation operates independently, yet they maintain trade and communication." Zexithera found this puzzling. Every successful galactic civilization eventually developed unified planetary government. How could a species advance this far while remaining fragmented? Perhaps that's why they're destroying their environment, she reasoned. No central authority means no coordinated conservation efforts. The more she studied these humans, the more convinced she became that intervention was necessary. They were clearly intelligent enough to develop nuclear technology and space travel, but too chaotic and divided to manage their own planet responsibly. Prepare the integration broadcast, she ordered. Standard format, identification, peaceful intentions, and invitation to join galactic civilization. Should we target specific population centers, Commander? No, make it global. Every human should receive the message simultaneously. That way their leaders can't hide the truth from their people. Zexathara felt a familiar satisfaction as her crew prepared for another successful integration. Soon Earth would become another peaceful member of the galactic community. The humans would have access to clean energy, advanced medicine, and interstellar travel. Their children would grow up in a universe full of possibilities instead of a dying world choked by pollution. All stations report ready, Commander. Excellent. Begin the broadcast in 1 standard hour. I want to observe their reaction patterns before we proceed to Phase 2. The bridge settled into quiet efficiency as final preparations were made. Outside the massive viewports, Earth continued its slow rotation, unaware that its entire future was about to change. Zexathara allowed herself a small smile of anticipation. By tomorrow, these humans would be taking their first steps toward becoming a truly civilized species. President Sarah Chen was reviewing climate change reports when every screen in the Oval Office suddenly flickered and went dark. Then an image appeared that would forever change humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. The creature on the screen had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on its elongated skull. Its skin appeared metallic blue, and it wore what looked like advanced armor. When it spoke, the words came through in perfect English, though its mouth movements didn't match the sounds. People of Earth, the alien being said, I am Commander Zexathara of the Chronosian Empire. We represent the Galactic Council, a peaceful alliance of civilized worlds. Your species has reached a critical point in its development. Chen immediately activated the emergency protocols she had hoped never to use. Within seconds, her Chief of Staff, Joint Chiefs, and key cabinet members were on secure lines, all watching the same broadcast that was apparently reaching every television, radio, and internet connection on Earth simultaneously. Your planet is dying due to environmental destruction and resource depletion, the alien continued. Your nations fight constantly over diminishing resources. We offer integration into our galactic civilization, where such problems have been solved for millennia. General Marcus Rodriguez, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, was the first to speak on the conference line. Madam President, NORAD confirms multiple large objects in orbit. They appeared without triggering any of our early warning systems. How many objects? Chen asked, her training as a former Air Force pilot helping her maintain composure. At least 200, ma'am. Some are massive, bigger than aircraft carriers. The alien broadcast continued. We will provide clean energy technology, advanced medicine, and access to interstellar travel. In return, Earth will become a member world of the galactic community, subject to our laws and guidance. Defense Secretary James Murphy's voice crackled through the secure line. They're not asking, Madam President. This sounds like a surrender ultimatum disguised as an invitation. Chen's mind raced through the implications. First contact with alien life should have been humanity's greatest moment, but this felt more like a threat than an opportunity. The alien's tone was condescending, like an adult explaining to children why they needed supervision. Your governments have 72 of your hours to respond, Commander Zexathara announced. Resistance is neither necessary nor advisable. We have successfully integrated 17 species into galactic civilization. All now enjoy peace and prosperity. The broadcast ended, leaving the world in stunned silence for approximately 30 seconds before chaos erupted globally. Chen's phone exploded with incoming calls from world leaders. The Chinese premier, Russian president, European Union leadership, and dozens of other heads of state all wanted immediate consultation. Emergency sessions were called in the United Nations, NATO, and every major international organization. Get me Premier Liu, President Volkov, and Chancellor Weber on a secure line immediately, Chen ordered. We need to coordinate our response. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the president's science advisor, burst into the Oval Office with a tablet full of preliminary analysis. Madam President, our radio telescopes are picking up incredible energy readings from those ships. Their technology is clearly beyond anything we possess. How far beyond? Conservative estimate? Several centuries, possibly millennia ahead of us. Chen felt a chill run down her spine. The alien commander had mentioned 17 other species that had been integrated. What had happened to those civilizations? Were they truly prosperous, or had they simply been conquered and their cultures erased? Within hours, humanity's response began to take shape. The major powers quickly realized that traditional national rivalries were meaningless in the face of an alien ultimatum. Emergency meetings were held in underground bunkers as world leaders tried to comprehend the magnitude of what they faced. Premier Liu was the first to voice what everyone was thinking. They speak of integration, but what they describe sounds like conquest. They want to impose their laws and guidance on us. Chancellor Weber agreed. The environmental argument is manipulation. Yes, we have challenges, but we're addressing them. They're using our problems to justify taking away our sovereignty. President Volkov's response was more direct. In my experience, when someone offers help you didn't ask for while pointing guns at you, they're not really offering help. The next 24 hours revealed the true scope of humanity's situation. The alien ships maintained position in orbit, completely ignoring all attempts at communication from Earth's governments. They had delivered their ultimatum and were apparently waiting for submission. Dr. Amanda Sterling, director of NASA, provided the most troubling intelligence. Our deep space monitoring stations detected these ships 3 weeks ago, but we dismissed the readings as equipment malfunctions. They've been watching us, studying us, planning this. Do we have any options for resistance? Chen asked General Rodriguez. Madam President, our most advanced missiles might not even reach their ships. If they can travel between stars and appeared in our orbit without detection, their defensive capabilities are probably beyond our comprehension. But Chen noticed something in the general's tone that suggested he wasn't ready to surrender. What are you thinking, Marcus? Ma'am, throughout history, superior technology doesn't always guarantee victory. The Mongols conquered advanced civilizations with horses and bows. The Spanish conquered the Aztecs despite being vastly outnumbered. Sometimes desperation and unconventional tactics can overcome technological advantages. Secretary Murphy leaned forward. Are you suggesting we fight? I'm suggesting we don't roll over and accept slavery disguised as civilization. Rodriguez replied firmly. Chen made a decision that would echo through history. We need more time to analyze their capabilities and intentions. Send a response requesting additional time for consultation with all world governments. The response was transmitted on all frequencies, politely requesting a 2-week extension to properly consider such a momentous decision. The answer came back within an hour, broadcast globally just like the original ultimatum. Commander Zexithara appeared on screen again, her 4 eyes showing what might have been mild annoyance. The 72-hour deadline is firm. Further delays will be interpreted as resistance. We strongly advise compliance for your own welfare. That night, as President Chen stood on the White House balcony, looking up at stars that no longer seemed distant and peaceful, she realized that humanity was about to face its greatest test. These aliens clearly expected easy submission based on their technological superiority and humanity's apparent primitiveness. They were about to learn that humans had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters not because they were the strongest or smartest species on their planet, but because they possessed something that apparently wasn't common in the galaxy, an absolute refusal to surrender when cornered. The emergency meeting took place in a bunker beneath NORAD, bringing together the most brilliant military and scientific minds from around the world. President Chen looked around the table at faces representing humanity's best hope. General Rodriguez, Dr. Vasquez, and commanders from 12 nations who had arrived in secret. Ladies and gentlemen, Chen began, we have 60 hours remaining. The question is not whether we can defeat them in conventional warfare, but whether we can make conquest too costly for them to maintain. Colonel Zhang Wei from the Chinese military spoke first. Our analysis suggests their ships use energy shields. We've detected electromagnetic field fluctuations around each vessel. This technology is beyond our current understanding, but shields require power. Dr. Rajesh Patel from India's space program added, we've been monitoring their communications. They're using quantum entanglement for instantaneous transmission. Highly advanced, but it suggests they have supply lines that could potentially be disrupted. General Rodriguez pulled up a holographic display showing Earth's orbital space. They've positioned themselves strategically above major population centers. New York, London, Moscow, Beijing, Tokyo. This isn't random intimidation, it's precise psychological warfare. What about our nuclear arsenal? Asked French General Dubois. Useless, replied Dr. Vasquez bluntly. Our missiles can't reach them, and even if they could, those energy shields would likely deflect anything we throw at them. The room fell, silent, until a new voice spoke up. Dr. Sarah Kim from MIT's Advanced Physics Lab had been quietly studying readings from the alien ships. What if we're thinking about this wrong? They're confident because they've done this 17 times before. They expect us to behave like the other species they've conquered. What do you mean? Chen asked. Every galactic civilization they've encountered probably developed along similar lines. Unified planetary government, centralized technology, predictable military doctrine. We're different. We're fragmented, chaotic, and completely unpredictable. Colonel Martinez from Brazil leaned forward. You're suggesting our weakness is actually a strength? Exactly. They're expecting Earth's surrender once they demonstrate superior firepower, but we don't have a central authority that can surrender for all of humanity. If they want to control Earth, they'll have to conquer 8 billion people individually. General Rodriguez smiled grimly. Asymmetric warfare. We can't match their technology, but we can make occupation impossible. Over the next 48 hours, a remarkable transformation occurred. Old enemies became allies overnight as humanity faced extinction. Russia shared intelligence with the United States. China coordinated with Japan. India worked alongside Pakistan. Israel collaborated with its Arab neighbors. The plan that emerged was audacious in its simplicity. Since conventional resistance was impossible, humanity would prepare for unconventional warfare on a scale never before imagined. Dr. Kim's team made a crucial discovery. Their ships emit a specific frequency when charging their weapon systems. We can build detectors using modified radio equipment. Won't help us stop them, but we can at least get warning before they fire. Meanwhile, every military base on Earth began implementing what became known as the Terran Protocol. Critical infrastructure was hardened and dispersed. Command structures were decentralized into thousands of independent cells. Military equipment was hidden in abandoned mines, caves, and underground facilities. Most importantly, detailed plans for guerrilla warfare were distributed to every military unit on the planet. If the aliens wanted Earth, they would have to fight for every city, every building, every street. The deadline arrived at exactly noon. Greenwich Mean Time. President Chen, speaking for all of humanity, delivered Earth's response from an undisclosed location. Commander Zexathara, we appreciate your offer to join galactic civilization. However, humanity must respectfully decline. We choose to solve our own problems and determine our own future. We ask that you respect our decision and leave our solar system in peace. The alien response came swiftly. Commander Zexathara appeared on screens worldwide, her 4 eyes showing what could only be described as disappointed annoyance. Your refusal is unfortunate but not unexpected. All primitive species initially resist civilization. We will now demonstrate why compliance is in your best interest. The first demonstration target was a decommissioned oil platform in the North Sea, chosen specifically because it was uninhabited but visible to satellites. The alien weapon was unlike anything humans had ever seen. A beam of pure energy descended from orbit, and the massive steel structure simply ceased to exist. No explosion, no debris. One moment it was there, the next it was gone. This is your first and only warning, Zexathara announced. We will begin targeting military installations in 1 hour unless you reconsider. But instead of terror, the demonstration had an unexpected effect. Humanity's response was not fear, but anger. News anchor Maria Santos, broadcasting from an emergency studio, spoke for billions when she said, "They just vaporized a building to scare us into submission. This isn't peaceful integration, it's extortion." The first alien attack on a military target came exactly 1 hour later. They chose Kadena Air Base in Japan, apparently expecting its destruction to break regional resistance. What they didn't expect was humanity's prepared response. The moment their ships began charging weapons, alarms sounded across the base. Personnel evacuated to underground shelters within minutes. When the alien beam struck, it destroyed empty buildings and aircraft that had already been moved to hidden locations. More importantly, The attack revealed crucial intelligence. Dr. Kim's detectors worked perfectly, providing 12 minutes of advance warning. The aliens' energy weapons had incredible destructive power, but required significant charging time. "They're used to fighting conventional forces," General Rodriguez observed. "They expect us to stand and fight like traditional armies. They're not prepared for an enemy that runs away and then hits back from unexpected directions." The aliens continued their demonstration attacks for 6 hours, destroying military bases across 6 continents. But each attack yielded the same result. Empty buildings destroyed while personnel and equipment vanished into prepared hiding places. Commander Zexithara's frustration was evident in her final broadcast of the day. "Your military infrastructure has been neutralized. Further resistance will only result in unnecessary casualties among your civilian population." But Zexithara had made a critical miscalculation. She assumed that destroying visible military assets would cripple human resistance. Instead, humanity's real military strength lay hidden in thousands of concealed locations, waiting for the next phase of the plan. That night, as alien ships maintained their positions above Earth cities, something unprecedented happened. 8 billion humans went to sleep knowing they were at war with a technologically superior enemy. But instead of despair, they felt something the aliens hadn't encountered in their 17 previous conquests: defiant determination. Humanity was about to teach the galaxy an important lesson. Never corner a species that evolved by surviving everything a hostile planet could throw at them. Commander Zexithara stood before the tactical display showing Earth's surface, her confidence beginning to waver for the first time in her military career. 3 days had passed since the bombardment of human military installations, yet resistance had not collapsed as predicted. "Status report," she demanded from Officer Vriltok. "Commander, our sensors detect no organized military activity on the surface. The destruction of their bases appears complete. However," he hesitated, his tentacles writhing nervously. "However what? We're receiving reports from monitoring stations throughout the galaxy. This conflict is being observed by numerous species. Some are beginning to question our integration methods." Zexithara dismissed this concern with an angry gesture. "The other species will understand once Earth is properly integrated. Begin landing operations. Deploy occupation forces to major population centers." What the Chronosians didn't realize was that humanity had spent the last 3 days implementing the most complex military deception in history. Every destroyed base had been abandoned, its personnel and equipment relocated to thousands of hidden positions. The real human military was underground, invisible to alien sensors. The first landing ships descended toward New York City at dawn. Massive vessels designed to carry thousands of Chronosian troops. They settled onto the streets around Manhattan, with the confidence of an empire that had never faced serious resistance. The streets appeared empty as armored alien soldiers emerged from their transports. Their advanced sensors detected no immediate threats, no military formations, no heavy weapons, just a silent city of millions of apparently terrified humans hiding in their buildings. What happened next would be analyzed in military academies across the galaxy for centuries to come. The first indication something was wrong came from the Chronosian patrol moving through Times Square. Their leader, Captain Morden, reported normal civilian evacuation patterns when his unit simply vanished. No energy signatures, no weapons fire, no distress signals. 12 heavily armed alien soldiers just disappeared. "Captain Morden, respond," came the urgent call from the command ship. Silence. In reality, the patrol had been eliminated by a team of human special forces, using a combination of technologies the aliens couldn't detect: sound suppressors, non-metallic weapons, and tactics learned from decades of urban warfare. The Chronosian soldiers, expecting to face conventional military units, never saw the humans who killed them. Similar incidents began occurring simultaneously across the globe. Alien patrols in London, Tokyo, Moscow, and Sydney started disappearing, not destroyed by superior firepower, but eliminated by invisible enemies using primitive weapons that didn't register on advanced sensors. "This is impossible," Zexithara muttered, watching her tactical display as unit after unit went dark. Their military was destroyed. "What are we fighting?" The answer came from Dr. Elena Vasquez, speaking from a hidden command center buried beneath the Rocky Mountains. "You're not fighting our military, Commander. You're fighting our people." Humanity had learned from every guerrilla war in its history: Vietnam, Afghanistan, the Warsaw Ghetto, the French Resistance. Millions of ordinary citizens had been trained in basic combat techniques. Factory workers, teachers, accountants, and students had all become potential fighters. The aliens encountered something their species had never faced: total civilian resistance. In every conquered civilization, military defeat had led to population compliance. Humans were different. They didn't distinguish between soldiers and civilians when their species faced extinction. In London, alien patrols found themselves trapped in subway tunnels that had been turned into death mazes. Local engineers had spent 3 days preparing every possible ambush point. When Chronosian soldiers entered the underground, they faced opponents who knew every tunnel, every maintenance shaft, every possible escape route. The Beijing resistance discovered that alien armor, while effective against energy weapons, had vulnerabilities to concentrated conventional fire. Chinese soldiers armed with modified hunting rifles began targeting joint seals and vision ports. It took dozens of shots to bring down one alien soldier, but humans had billions of bullets. In Moscow, Russian engineers made a crucial discovery. Alien force shields were designed to deflect high-energy attacks, but were less effective against multiple simultaneous low-energy impacts. Coordinated attacks using hundreds of small explosives could overload the shield generators, but perhaps the most devastating human innovation came from an unexpected source. Maria Santos, the news anchor who had become humanity's unofficial voice of resistance, discovered that humans had one advantage the aliens hadn't considered: intimate knowledge of their own planet. "They're trying to fight us on our home ground," she announced from a hidden broadcasting station. "But we know every mountain, every forest, every cave on this planet. They're strangers here, and we're going to use that against them." The truth of her words became apparent when Chronosian forces attempted to secure the Amazon rainforest. Their advanced sensors, designed to work in the sterile environments of space and conquered worlds, were overwhelmed by the biological chaos of Earth's most complex ecosystem. Brazilian forces, working with indigenous tribes who had spent centuries mastering jungle warfare, turned the rainforest into a nightmare for alien invaders. Chronosian soldiers found themselves lost in a green maze where every tree could hide an enemy, every sound could signal an attack. The aliens' technological advantages meant nothing when they couldn't see their enemies. Thermal vision was useless in a jungle where everything generated heat. Motion sensors were overwhelmed by millions of insects and animals. Communication systems were jammed by the thick canopy and constant electronic interference from hidden human transmitters. Commander Zexithara received the most troubling report from her ground forces commander. "We've lost contact with 60% of our landing parties. Those still reporting are requesting immediate evacuation. The humans are using tactics we've never encountered." "What kind of tactics?" "They're not fighting us directly. They attack and disappear. They sabotage our equipment and vanish. They use their own infrastructure against us. Every building, every road, every utility tunnel has been turned into a weapon." For the first time in her career, Zexithara faced the possibility of military failure. The Chronosian Empire had conquered worlds with defensive fleets and planetary shields. They had defeated enemies with advanced weapons and organized armies. But they had never fought a species that turned its entire planet into a battlefield. The breaking point came when human resistance forces launched their first coordinated counterattack. Using intelligence gathered from captured alien equipment, they identified the location of enemy supply caches. Simultaneously, resistance cells in 37 cities struck at Chronosian logistics operations. The attacks themselves weren't sophisticated. Improvised explosives, small arms fire, and basic sabotage techniques. But they were perfectly coordinated across 6 continents, hitting the aliens exactly when their forces were most vulnerable. "Impossible," Zexithara breathed, watching her supply network collapse in real time. "How are they coordinating these attacks?" "We destroyed their communication infrastructure." The answer was purely human. Runners, coded radio messages, even smoke signals and carrier pigeons. Humanity had reverted to communication methods so primitive that the aliens hadn't thought to monitor them. As the 4th day of occupation began, Commander Zexithara faced a situation no Chronosian commander had ever encountered. Her technologically superior forces were being systematically destroyed by an enemy they couldn't find, using weapons they couldn't track, coordinating through systems they couldn't understand. For the first time in galactic history, a primitive species was winning a war against a vastly superior invader, and humanity was just getting started. Dr. Sarah Kim had been awake for 72 hours straight, surviving on coffee and determination as she worked in the hidden laboratory beneath MIT. The breakthrough came from the most unlikely source: a damaged Chronosian communication device retrieved from a destroyed patrol unit. "I've got it," she announced to the secure video conference linking resistance scientists worldwide. "Their quantum communication system has a fatal flaw." President Chen, calling from her mobile command center somewhere in the Appalachian Mountains, leaned forward intently. "Explain." "They use quantum entanglement for instantaneous communication across any distance. It's brilliant technology, but it requires synchronized quantum states between transmitter and receiver. If we can disrupt that synchronization..." Dr. Rajesh Patel from the Mumbai Research Cell understood immediately. "We can cut their communication with their home fleet and each other." "Better than that," Kim continued, her eyes bright with exhaustion and excitement. "If we reverse the quantum polarity while they're transmitting, we can feed false information directly into their command network. They'll be receiving our data while thinking it's coming from their own forces." The implications were staggering. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity would have a chance to turn the aliens' technological superiority against them. Meanwhile, General Rodriguez was coordinating humanity's most audacious military operation from a bunker system that hadn't existed a week earlier. The plan was called Operation Prometheus, and it required precise timing across the entire planet. "Phase 1 is complete," reported Colonel Zhang Wei from the Beijing cell. "We've identified the primary command ship. It's maintaining position directly above the Potomac River, approximately 3 kilometers altitude. Phase 2 confirmation from all cells," added Colonel Martinez from Sao Paulo. "Human forces are in position around every major alien concentration. Estimated enemy strength: 40,000 troops scattered across 67 cities." General Rodriguez studied the tactical display showing alien positions worldwide. The Chronosians had made a crucial mistake by spreading their forces thin to control maximum territory. They expected their technological advantages to compensate for reduced unit strength. "Dr. Kim, how long until you can implement the communication disruption?" 30 minutes for localized disruption, 6 hours for global implementation." "Do it. All cells prepare for synchronized assault on my command." But Operation Prometheus had a secret component that even most human commanders didn't know about. Dr. Elena Vasquez had made a discovery that would change everything. The alien ship's positioning wasn't random. They're not just hovering above cities for intimidation, she explained to President Chen. Their ships are drawing power from Earth's magnetic field. That's how they maintain position without depleting fuel reserves. But it also means they're connected to our planet's electromagnetic environment. "What are you suggesting?" "Every major power grid on Earth is still partially functional despite their attacks. If we coordinate a massive power surge at precisely the right frequency," Chen understood immediately, "we can overload their power collection systems. More than that, we can turn every power plant, transmission line, and electrical grid into a weapon against them." The next 6 hours saw the largest coordinated effort in human history. In secret facilities across the globe, scientists worked to synchronize power grids that had never been designed to work together. Engineers from competing nations shared decades of classified research. Former enemies collaborated as if their species' survival depended on it. Because it did. At exactly 1800 hours GMT, humanity struck back with everything they had learned about their enemy. Dr. Kim activated the quantum communication disruptor, just as alien patrols worldwide reported for their scheduled status updates. Instead of receiving orders from their command ship, every Chronosian unit began receiving carefully crafted false information, designed to create maximum confusion. Alien. Commanders in New York received orders to relocate to Tokyo. Tokyo forces were told to provide immediate support to units in London. London patrols were directed to establish defensive positions that would leave them perfectly exposed to human ambush points. Simultaneously, every power grid on Earth surged with precisely calculated electromagnetic pulses. The effect on alien ships was immediate and catastrophic. Vessels that had maintained perfect stability for days began fluctuating erratically as their power collection systems overloaded. The Chronosian command ship above Washington, D.C., was the first to fall. Its crew, receiving contradictory information from ground forces and struggling with power system failures, failed to notice the massive electromagnetic buildup beneath them until it was too late. The pulse that erupted from Earth's electrical infrastructure was visible from space as lightning arced between power lines across entire continents. The alien command ship, its systems overwhelmed by energy input far beyond design parameters, began losing altitude. Commander Zexathara had just enough time to transmit a desperate message to her home fleet before her ship crashed into the Potomac River. Human resistance capabilities severely underestimated. They're using our own technology against us. Recommend immediate withdrawal and reassessment. But the message never reached its destination. Dr. Kim's quantum disruptor had severed all alien communications beyond Earth's orbit across the planet. Similar scenes played out as alien ships began falling from the sky. Not all were destroyed, but most were severely damaged and forced to make emergency landings. The supposedly invincible Chronosian fleet was suddenly trapped on the surface of a hostile world, cut off from reinforcement and facing an enemy that seemed to know their weaknesses better than they did. In London, alien ground forces responded to false orders that led them directly into abandoned underground stations where British SAS units had prepared massive explosive charges. The resulting explosions collapsed sections of the tunnel system, trapping hundreds of Chronosian soldiers underground. Chinese forces in Beijing used similar tactics, leading confused alien patrols into building complexes that had been rigged as elaborate traps. When the aliens realized they'd been deceived, they found themselves surrounded by human fighters in an environment specifically designed to negate their technological advantages. The most devastating blow came in Moscow, where Russian engineers had spent days preparing the subway system as a massive electromagnetic pulse generator. When alien forces retreated underground to escape human surface attacks, they unknowingly positioned themselves inside what became the world's largest microwave weapon. The electromagnetic pulse that surged through Moscow's metro system didn't destroy the alien armor, but it overloaded every electronic component the soldiers carried. Blinded, deaf, and unable to communicate, the technologically superior invaders found themselves helpless against human forces, armed with primitive kinetic weapons. By midnight, GMT, the tactical situation had completely reversed. Alien forces that had controlled Earth's major cities 12 hours earlier were now scattered, leaderless and fighting for survival. Most of their advanced equipment was damaged or destroyed. Their communication network was compromised. Their command structure was in chaos. Commander Zexathara, pulled from the wreckage of her command ship by human rescue teams, found herself in the unprecedented position of being a prisoner of war to a species her empire had dismissed as primitive. How? She asked President Chen during their first meeting in an undisclosed medical facility. How did you defeat technology thousands of years ahead of your own? Chen's response would become legendary among both species. We didn't defeat your technology, Commander. We used it. You came here expecting to fight a war. We turned it into a science experiment, and you became our test subjects. For the first time in galactic history, a technologically primitive species had not only resisted conquest, but had turned the tables on their invaders. The galaxy was about to learn that humans didn't just fight harder when cornered, they fought smarter. The interrogation room in the underground facility was unlike anything Commander Zexathara had expected. Instead of harsh lighting and intimidation tactics common throughout the galaxy, the humans had provided comfortable seating, adequate lighting, and even offered her food compatible with her species' dietary requirements. President Chen sat across from the alien commander, flanked by General Rodriguez and Dr. Vasquez. The atmosphere was tense but civilized, reflecting humanity's approach to this unprecedented situation. Commander, Chen began, we need to understand what we're facing. You mentioned 17 other species that were integrated into your galactic civilization. What exactly does that mean? Zexathara's four eyes focused on each human in turn. Even in defeat, her military bearing remained intact. Integration is a standard process. Species that reach nuclear capability either destroy themselves or require guidance to achieve interstellar civilization. Guidance. General Rodriguez repeated flatly. That's an interesting way to describe invasion and conquest. You don't understand, Zexathara protested. The Chronosian Empire has brought peace and prosperity to every world we've integrated. No more wars, no more environmental destruction, no more suffering from primitive governmental systems. Dr. Vasquez leaned forward, and in exchange, these species gave up their freedom, their cultures, their right to self-determination, small prices to pay for advancement beyond their wildest dreams. President Chen studied the alien commanders' expressions carefully. Despite their physical differences, certain emotions seemed universal. Zexathara genuinely believed her empire's actions were beneficial. Commander, what happened to the cultures of those 17 species? Their languages, their art, their unique ways of thinking? Preserved in archives, naturally. Though most integrated species quickly adopt superior galactic standards voluntarily, the implications chilled every human in the room. Cultural extinction disguised as voluntary modernization. We need to see those archives, Chen stated. We need to contact representatives of those integrated species directly. Impossible. Communication with Earth has been severed. My fleet cannot contact the home systems and they cannot reach us. This revelation had profound implications. Unknown to the aliens, human scientists had been monitoring quantum communication traffic since Dr. Kim's breakthrough. They had detected massive signal bursts from distant star systems, suggesting that news of Earth's successful resistance was spreading throughout the galaxy. In the week following Operation Prometheus, humanity began the complex task of dealing with thousands of stranded alien soldiers and dozens of damaged spacecraft. Unlike the Chronosian standard integration procedures, humans approached their defeated enemies with a combination of caution and genuine curiosity. Medical teams treated wounded aliens with the same care given to human casualties. Engineers studied damaged alien technology, not to reverse engineer weapons but to understand the scientific principles involved. Linguists worked to establish better communication protocols beyond the basic translation systems the invaders had used. Most importantly, human social scientists began documenting everything they learned about galactic civilization. The picture that emerged was disturbing. Dr. Margaret Collins, a xenopsychologist who had volunteered for the first contact protocols, conducted extensive interviews with captured Chronosian soldiers. Her findings revealed a galactic empire built on a foundation of cultural supremacy and technological intimidation. They genuinely believe they're helping, she reported to the Global Leadership Council. Every Chronosian we've interviewed shows the same pattern of thinking. They see cultural diversity as primitive inefficiency. They view independent thinking as dangerous chaos. The implications became clearer when human hackers, working with Dr. Kim's quantum communication insights, managed to intercept and decode transmissions from other parts of the galaxy. What they discovered was evidence of a civilization that had achieved peace through enforced conformity. Integrated species were indeed peaceful and prosperous, but they had essentially ceased to exist as distinct cultures. Their populations lived comfortable lives following standardized galactic protocols, creating art approved by galactic standards, thinking thoughts considered appropriate by galactic authorities. It's not conquest in the traditional sense, explained Dr. Vasquez during a global broadcast. It's cultural assimilation on a galactic scale. They don't destroy other civilizations. They absorb them until nothing unique remains. Meanwhile, the captured alien technology was yielding incredible insights. Human engineers discovered that Chronosian science, while incredibly advanced, was also highly standardized. Every ship used identical systems. Every weapon operated on the same principles. Every communication device followed universal protocols. They've achieved technological perfection, observed Dr. Kim. But at the cost of innovation, everything is standardized because they've eliminated the chaos that drives creativity. This discovery explained why humanity's unconventional tactics had been so effective. The Chronosians had faced 17 species, but those species had all developed along similar technological and social lines. They had unified planetary governments, centralized military commands, and predictable response patterns. Humans were different. Earth's chaotic diversity of cultures, languages, and governing systems had created a species capable of adapting faster than the aliens could respond. When standard integration procedures failed, the Chronosians had no backup plans because they had never needed them. The most significant breakthrough came when human scientists gained access to the galactic communication network through captured equipment. For the first time, Earth could monitor conversations between star systems across the galaxy. What they heard changed everything. Species throughout the galaxy were reacting to news of Earth's successful resistance with a mixture of shock, hope, and fear. Some civilizations that had been integrated centuries ago were beginning to question galactic authority for the first time in generations. Others were expressing interest in establishing contact with this remarkable species that had achieved the impossible. Most disturbing were the intercepted communications from the Chronosian home systems. High Command was debating whether to send a larger fleet to complete Earth's integration or to simply eliminate humanity entirely as a dangerous example to other species. They're afraid, General Rodriguez realized during a strategy meeting. For the first time in their imperial history, they're facing a problem they can't solve with superior technology and standard procedures. President Chen made a decision that would echo through galactic history. We're not going to wait for them to decide our fate. It's time for Earth to make contact with the rest of the galaxy directly. Using the quantum communication technology they had captured and improved upon, humanity began broadcasting a simple message to every star system within range. This is Earth, calling any civilization that values freedom and diversity. We have successfully resisted Chronosian integration and are willing to share our experiences with any species interested in maintaining their independence. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Messages began arriving from dozens of star systems, some from recently integrated species asking for help, others from civilizations that had been hiding from galactic attention to avoid integration. Commander Zexthera, watching human technicians operate equipment her own engineers couldn't repair, finally understood the magnitude of what had occurred. Earth hadn't just defeated a Chronosian invasion force. They had started a galactic revolution. What have we done? She whispered, watching the communication displays light up with signals from across the galaxy. Dr. Vasquez answered with a slight smile. You've awakened something that your empire spent centuries trying to suppress. You've reminded the galaxy what freedom looks like. Was unrecognizable. The quantum communication networks that had once carried only official Chronosian empire, broadcasts now buzzed with unprecedented activity as dozens of species communicated freely for the first time in centuries. President Chen stood before the United Nations General Assembly, but this was no ordinary session. Representatives from 47 different star systems participated via quantum link, their various forms of communication translated in real time by technology that combined human innovation with captured Chronosian equipment. The Galactic Liberation Alliance officially recognizes the sovereignty of all member civilizations, Chen announced, reading from a document that had taken 3 months to negotiate across species barriers. No civilization has the right to impose its values, technology, or government upon another species. The response from across the galaxy was immediate. Bioluminescent flashes from the Andorian delegation, harmonic vibrations from the crystalline Zephyrians, and dozens of other forms of approval from species that had rediscovered their voices after generations of enforced silence. Commander Zexthara watched the proceedings from her quarters in the diplomatic facility that had replaced her prison cell. The transformation in her own thinking had been as dramatic as the galactic situation. Months of exposure to human culture, unrestricted access to Earth's chaotic information networks, and honest conversations with former enemies had shattered her worldview. I don't understand how you maintain order, she admitted to Dr. Vasquez during one of their regular discussions. Your species argues constantly, disagrees on fundamental principles, and yet somehow you function as a civilization. That's exactly why we function, Dr. Vasquez replied. Disagreement forces us to test our ideas, to innovate, to adapt. Your empire achieved stability by eliminating dissent, but you also eliminated growth. The evidence supporting this theory was overwhelming. In the months since establishing galactic communication, humanity had learned that scientific advancement in Chronosian space had essentially stagnated for centuries. The Empire maintained their technology but rarely improved it, because improvement required the kind of chaotic experimentation they had eliminated from integrated worlds. Meanwhile, Earth's resistance had sparked innovations that were revolutionizing galactic technology. Human engineers, working with liberated scientists from integrated worlds, had developed communication systems that didn't require quantum entanglement, defensive technologies that didn't depend on energy shields, and propulsion methods that challenged fundamental assumptions about interstellar travel. "Your species thinks differently," admitted Vriltok, Zexthara's former second-in-command, who had become one of the most vocal advocates for Chronosian reform. "We were taught that there was one correct solution to every problem. You assume there are always multiple solutions and search for the best one. The most dramatic example of this difference came from the hegemony crisis that erupted 3 months after Earth's liberation. The Andromedal hegemony, a neighboring empire with expansion policies similar to the Chronosians, decided that the galactic liberation movement represented a threat to interstellar stability. They dispatched a massive fleet to restore order by conquering the rebellious star systems. Traditional galactic doctrine suggested that the diverse alliance of liberated worlds would collapse when faced with unified military force. Instead, humanity coordinated the first truly cooperative galactic defense in recorded history. The Battle of the Proxima Cluster became legend throughout the galaxy. 47 different species, using incompatible technologies and conflicting military doctrines, somehow managed to function as a unified defense force. The key was a revolutionary command structure developed by General Rodriguez and refined by military leaders from a dozen different worlds. Instead of trying to force standardization, the alliance embraced diversity as a tactical advantage. Hegemony forces faced enemies that used energy weapons, kinetic projectiles, gravitational manipulation, temporal distortion, biological warfare, and technologies that had never been combined in a single battlefield. The Andromedal fleet, designed to counter known galactic military standards, found itself overwhelmed by opponents who refused to follow established tactical patterns. When conventional weapons failed against alliance forces, the hegemony had no alternative strategies because their doctrine assumed superior technology guaranteed victory. The battle ended when human engineers, working with Zephyrian scientists and Chronosian defectors, managed to disable the hegemony command ship using a tactic that would have been impossible for any single species. A coordinated attack using 3 completely different technological approaches simultaneously. "Impossible," transmitted the hegemony commander, as his ship's systems failed. "How can inferior technology defeat superior force?" General Rodriguez's response was broadcast across the galaxy. "You're not fighting inferior technology. You're fighting different technology, coordinated by different thinking, applied by different cultures working together. Superiority is useless against diversity." The hegemony's defeat had consequences that reverberated throughout known space. Within weeks, integrated worlds in Andromedal space began demanding their independence. The empire that had seemed unassailable suddenly faced rebellions on dozens of worlds simultaneously. But perhaps the most significant change occurred within Chronosian space itself. Zexthara's reports from Earth, combined with evidence of successful resistance movements throughout the galaxy, had sparked unprecedented debate within the Empire's ruling council. For the first time in their history, Chronosians were questioning their fundamental assumptions about civilization and progress. Young Chronosians, influenced by intercepted human broadcasts, began asking why their society discouraged individual expression and creative thinking. The Empire's response was as predictable as it was futile. They attempted to restrict access to galactic communications and reinforce traditional values through education and propaganda. But ideas once released proved impossible to contain. Dr. Sarah Kim, now serving as Earth's chief technology liaison to the Galactic Alliance, summarized the situation during a broadcast that reached every inhabited system. "The galaxy is learning what we've always known on Earth. Diversity isn't chaos to be controlled. It's strength to be celebrated. Competition isn't conflict to be eliminated. It's innovation to be encouraged, Commander." Zexthara made her decision on a clear morning when Earth's sun illuminated her quarters with the kind of natural light that Chronosian worlds had engineered away centuries ago. She requested a meeting with President Chen and made an unprecedented announcement. "I wish to defect to Earth and request asylum for myself and any Chronosian personnel who choose to remain. We want to help establish peaceful contact between our species and work toward reforming our empire from within." Chen's response reflected the principle that had guided humanity throughout the crisis. Commander, you're not defecting to Earth. You're choosing to join a galactic community based on freedom and cooperation. Earth is just one member of that community. The transformation of galactic civilization continued accelerating. Trade agreements based on mutual benefit replaced tribute systems. Scientific cooperation replaced technological hoarding. Cultural exchange replaced enforced assimilation. Most importantly, the galaxy's younger species began to thrive. Civilizations that had been marked for integration were instead invited to join the Galactic Liberation Alliance as equal partners. Their unique perspectives and technologies strengthened the alliance while preserving their individual cultures. 1 year after the invasion of Earth, Commander Zexithara stood before the Galactic Council as an official representative of the Chronosian reform movement. Her presence there would have been unthinkable during the Empire's heyday, but the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. The Chronosian Empire formally requests to join the Galactic Liberation Alliance, she announced. We acknowledge our past errors in judgment and wish to contribute to a truly cooperative galactic civilization. The vote was unanimous. Later, as representatives from hundreds of star systems celebrated the expansion of galactic democracy, Dr. Vasquez reflected on the remarkable chain of events that had brought them to this point. We always wondered if we were alone in the universe, she mused to President Chen. It turns out we weren't alone, but we were unique. The galaxy needed to learn that strength comes from diversity, not uniformity. Chen nodded, watching the holographic display that showed peaceful communication between star systems across the galaxy. They learned too late that nothing fights harder than a cornered human. But we taught them something more important. Nothing builds better than cooperative diversity. The galaxy had indeed learned too late about human determination when cornered. But it was learning just in time about human generosity when victorious. Earth had not sought to replace one empire with another, but to create something entirely new. A galactic civilization based on the radical idea that different species could work together while remaining different. As reports continued arriving from across the galaxy about new alliances, scientific breakthroughs, and cultural renaissance, one thing became clear. The age of galactic empires was ending, and the age of galactic cooperation